In today's video, we will be going through the 2014 American science fiction horror film, Army of Frankensteins. Spoilers ahead, you have been warned. Make sure to give this video a thumbs up, comment on what your favorite part was, and subscribe to our channel for more. The movie begins with a badly wounded man being tended to by a woman named Maggie in the middle of nowhere. It is the year 1869 in Virginia. The man eventually succumbs to his wounds and dies. Just as Maggie barely gets to mourn, 3 armed soldiers arrive pointing guns at her. As they start approaching her, bullets coming from unknown sources take out one of the soldiers. The woman flees, followed by one of the soldiers named Jimmy carrying a sword. After running for a while, Maggie stops and turns around. She then starts making out with Jimmy. As they are passionately kissing, they suddenly notice an army of zombies approaching them. Jimmy picks up the sword and tells Maggie to run away. A zombie easily subdues Jimmy and pulls his arms apart from his body. Maggie screams and flees as the zombie-like creatures drag Jimmy with them. The movie then cuts to the present, 150 years later. A guy named Alan Jones is preparing to propose to a girl named Ashley. Alan is a recently unemployed grocery store worker, while Ashley still works at the same store. While getting ready, he checks his mail and finds a promotional letter from ForgottenRelatives.com informing him about his ancestor named Corporal Solomon Jones, who fought in the American Civil War and lost his left arm. As he waits for Ashley to arrive, he watches the news. The news reports about an incident of grave robbery where the suspect only stole certain body parts of the victims. Alan then receives a text from Ashley, who says that she can't make it tonight as she is working late at the store. A disappointed Alan drives to the store to meet her. There he meets an old man who asks him to help read a greeting card. The greeting card reads, "You are exactly what I'm looking for." Alan then looks for Ashley and finds her at the back of the store kissing his former boss. A hurt Alan storms out of the store. He gets into his car to leave, but it doesn't start, so he gets out and starts walking home. Suddenly, he is followed by 2 robbers who corner him into a dark confinement. They beat him up when a kid genius named Igor appears and tells them to leave. Igor then hands Alan a metal rod. He is unaware of what to do with the rod when Igor presses a button and the metal bar automatically sticks into the concrete floor. The metal bar then extends into the sky and a lightning bolt strikes the metal rod, causing Alan to get electrocuted and pass out. Igor then takes Alan to a warehouse. Alan wakes up to Igor taping his one eye open. There, the old man from the grocery store appears. He is Dr. Tanner Finsky. Igor then injects Alan with a drug, and Dr. Finsky pulls out one of Alan's eyeballs with a device. Later, Dr. Finsky puts the eyeball into the body of a man lying on a surgical table. He then warns Igor not to pull the switch present in the room and leaves. While injecting Alan with a drug, Igor reveals that the body lying on the table is Frankenstein. The injection causes Alan's body to convulse. He stumbles and involuntarily pulls the switch. The switch causes cellular animation to begin. A green laser then pierces through Frankenstein's body and he comes to life. Just then, Dr. Finsky returns to find Frankenstein alive. He rejoices over his experiment's success, but soon his happiness turns into worry. A lightning bolt overloads the system. Then an interdimensional portal appears, creating multiple Frankenstein copies before the portal swallows everyone and takes them to 1865 in the middle of a battle of the American Civil War. A civil war in the United States fought between states supporting the Federal Union and Southern states. The Frankensteins immediately start attacking both the Confederate and Union soldiers, killing many of them. Alan gains consciousness and finds himself being surrounded by Union soldiers. He is then taken to a tent where Dr. Finsky is receiving treatment. Alan is rescued by Corporal Solomon Jones, who Alan found out earlier is his great-great-great-grandfather. He begins seeing images of what the original Frankenstein, who was given Alan's eyes, sees. He sees that Igor is behind the Confederate lines, where Lieutenant Swanson takes his injector before letting him leave to the Union side. Suddenly, Maggie comes crying to the tent, warning the Union soldiers and nurses of the Frankensteins. Meanwhile, Igor ultimately finds his way to the Union tent. Seeing Igor alive, Dr. Finsky is elated and tells him to kill all the monsters and to create a portal back. He then passes away as he is weakened by the time travel. Initially hesitant, Alan gets convinced to take arms and fight after seeing the bodies of soldiers slain by the monsters. At the Confederate outpost, Lieutenant Swanson returns with 2 remaining wounded soldiers, but Captain Walton shoots the 2 to save their medical supplies. He is angry at the heavy personnel loss the Confederates suffered and demands an answer from Lieutenant Swanson. The lieutenant then tells the captain about the monsters that are slaughtering the soldiers. Upon hearing this, the captain gets angrier, thinking of it as an excuse. Lieutenant Swanson then shows the captain the glowing green injector he retrieved from Igor. Captain Walton injects a cat with the injector to see its effect. The cat turns into a giant beast in no time and runs into the woods. Meanwhile, Alan and Igor team up with Corporal Solomon. The corporal tells them that the monsters are headed north. The group is then joined by Virginia, Solomon's girlfriend, and a medic. She reveals that she feels safer with Alan and Igor as they know more about the monsters. They set out on their journey up north through jungles but soon lose track. Suddenly, Alan screams in pain and starts seeing through the original Frankenstein's eyes. The monsters are attacking another Union camp. Alan and his team eventually track them down, but a monster suddenly appears from behind and starts moving towards them. A fight ensues and Virginia is cornered by the original Frankenstein in a hot air balloon and they fly off. Alan and the team follow the balloon on foot, however they soon lose track of it. On board the balloon, Frankenstein proceeds towards Virginia. A scared Virginia looks away and the monster is intrigued by the scar on her back. He caresses her scar, which freaks her out. Frankenstein then points to the scar on his chest that the Confederate soldiers made. He seems to empathize with Virginia. She then nervously explains that the Confederate soldiers look down on her because of the color of her skin. She explains that the Union is fighting against the Confederate soldiers to free other people like her from slavery. She also tells him that Abraham Lincoln wants to free the slaves. Virginia then says maybe if someone like Frankenstein helps them end slavery, they will achieve that goal sooner. Frankenstein thinks to himself for a while and agrees to help the Union, causing the duplicate Frankensteins to relax. Their balloon then comes under attack from the Confederate soldiers and crashes into the ground. They are soon captured by the Confederate soldiers. Meanwhile, resting at night, Solomon is attacked by the cat beast and has his left forearm removed. Alan and Igor quickly escort the wounded Solomon back to the Union camp. Suddenly, Alan screams in pain and starts seeing things. He sees that Virginia is alive and she has been captured by Confederate soldiers along with Frankenstein. At the Confederate camp, Walton sees the gigantic Frankenstein for the first time. Impressed by the effect of the injection, he orders Swanson to inject himself with the regeneration liquid. Swanson hesitatingly injects himself and turns into a beast, much bigger than Frankenstein. Thinking the war is now won, Walton lets the prisoners go to inform the Union about their doom. At the Union camp, the soldiers are in low spirits as they have suffered heavy casualties. They have been ordered to vacate their posts, but Virginia arrives at the camp along with all the Frankensteins. She's able to convince the soldiers they are on their side, giving them hope. Later that night, Igor bullets a disintegration ray and replaces Solomon's left arm. It is connected to his nervous system. The next day, the Confederate army arrives and a gory battle follows. The Confederate soldiers, along with the Confederate monster, wage a war against Union soldiers, Frankenstein monsters, Alan and Igor. The Confederate monster easily kills and mutilates the Union soldiers, while the Frankenstein monsters easily take out the Confederate soldiers. Corporal Solomon uses his new arm to disintegrate Confederate soldiers and make them disappear into thin air. Eventually, the Frankenstein monsters manage to surround Walton and the Confederate monster. The original Frankenstein proceeds to finish the remaining Confederate, but Maggie appears from behind and stabs him in revenge for killing her soldier boyfriend Jimmy earlier. The other Frankensteins fall in pain. The Frankenstein monster then proceeds towards Maggie, but Corporal Solomon intervenes. The monster knocks him, disabling his arm. The Confederate monster kills Maggie before leaving with Captain Walton. The news of the bravery of Alan, Igor, and the Frankenstein monsters in beating the Confederates reaches President Abraham Lincoln. He summons Alan, Igor, and the Frankenstein monster. The three depart for the White House while the rest of the Frankenstein monsters remain with the Union soldiers. Before leaving for Washington, D.C., Igor drinks the regeneration liquid and gives Solomon a bag, instructing him not to open it until he's gone. Once Alan and the team reach Washington, D.C., President Abraham Lincoln commends them on their bravery. The president also tells them that Captain Walton and the Confederate monster have arrived at D.C. He tells them that he's giving them the task to find out what they want here in D.C. Igor uses his tracker to locate the Confederate monster and Captain Walton at a tavern. Igor then takes Frankenstein's eyeball out and places it in his goggles and wears it. This basically functions as a camera that allows Alan to see what the eyeball is seeing. Igor then sneaks into the bar and listens in on the conversation between Captain Walton, the Confederate monster, and their contact in DC. The contact's name is John Wilkes Booth. Captain Walton gives Booth the assignment to assassinate the president as Igor listens covertly. The bar owner eventually notices Igor and blows his cover. Igor tries to run, but Captain Walton shoots him and Igor collapses to the ground as Alan runs towards him screaming. Alan pleads with Igor not to leave him alone. He tells him that he can come and live with Ashley and him. A wounded Igor tells him that there's no going back for him. He then adds that he can now go back to the present time. When the original Frankenstein dies, all the other monsters will die with him and the portal will open by itself. Igor then passes away as Alan cries and the Frankenstein monster screams. Meanwhile, the other Frankenstein monsters at the camp hear the original monster's call and start moving towards DC. Virginia speculates that something big is set to happen in DC and these monsters are being summoned. She decides to tag along with them to help them. Corporal Solomon also agrees to join her and follows the monsters. Alan and Frankenstein meet the president again. They warn him that he is about to be assassinated at the theater. President Abraham tells him that he must show the people of the country that he is not afraid and he will not hide from people that go against him. On the D-Day, Alan and Frankenstein meet Walton, Booth, and the Confederate monster outside the theater. The Confederate monster and Frankenstein start fighting. Meanwhile, Booth sneaks into the theater and he is followed by Alan. Alan tries to stop him, but Booth hits him with his gun and knocks him out. Booth then starts making his way to the first floor where President Lincoln is enjoying the theater with the First Lady. Outside the theater, the other Frankenstein monsters, Virginia and Solomon, arrive. The Confederate monster manages to knock out the original Frankenstein, causing the other Frankenstein monsters to collapse on the ground along with him. Captain Walton then takes Virginia hostage at gunpoint. A fight breaks out between Solomon and the Confederate monster. Eventually, Frankenstein regains consciousness and the other Frankensteins recover and save Solomon by beating down the Confederate monster. An unappreciative Captain Walton then starts berating and insulting the Confederate monster for being beaten up. The Confederate monster's pride kicks in and he throws an ungrateful Walton towards the Frankensteins. They surround Captain Walton and rip him into pieces as Solomon and Virginia make out. Elsewhere, Booth makes his way into the balcony and aims his gun at President Lincoln's back. The president is busy enjoying the theater, unaware of the assassin behind him. Just as Booth pulls the trigger, Frankenstein steps in front of Lincoln and is shot instead. The bullet staggers Frankenstein and he teeters backward, knocking Lincoln over the balcony before he falls over, squashing Lincoln to death. All the people inside are horrified and they run out of the theater. Alan runs to Frankenstein and pleads with him not to go. A fatally wounded Frankenstein tells him to go home and passes away. As Frankenstein dies, the other Frankensteins disappear. Booth tries to leave, but Solomon disintegrates him with his arm. Soon after, the portal appears. Solomon asks Alan to stay back with him in Virginia, but Alan replies that he doesn't belong there and he has a girl waiting for him. Before leaving, Alan tells Virginia and Solomon to have a bunch of babies so he can be born in the future. Alan returns back to the warehouse. There he sees the same events unfold that he has already lived through. He warns Igor not to go into the portal as he dies there. Igor then tells him he can't change history and if he doesn't go in there, Alan might die. After saying this, Igor enters the portal. Alan then goes back to the grocery store looking for Ashley. He asks the boss by the counter where she is, but he refuses to tell him. Alan punches him and knocks him unconscious. Alan then apologizes to Ashley and asks her to marry him. She tells him that she loves him, but she can't marry him just yet as they're not ready. She tells him that he can't just show up and randomly ask her to marry him. She then questions why he is wearing an eye patch. A dejected Alan then leaves, but Ashley follows him outside. She calls him and kisses him when he turns back. She then tells him to ask her again someday. Later, when Alan does an ancestry search on Solomon Jones, he finds that Solomon married Virginia and adopted Igor, making him his great-great-grandfather. The bag Igor gave to Solomon contained a metal rod with instructions to stick it in his grave during a stormy night. A lightning bolt hits it, activating the regeneration fluid to bring him back to life. Thanks for watching. Make sure to like the video if you enjoyed it and subscribe to the channel to see more of these movie summaries.